Hi and welcome to another carpenter tutoring tutorial. I'm Amy and today we are going to talk about the coordinate plane, its parts, its features, and how and why we use it. First and foremost, the coordinate plane is a graph. It's a place that allows us to visually represent mathematical relationships so that we can see things like lines that are formed by the equation of a line, or other mathematical relationships that can be represented on the graph. But in order to do that, we need to know how to use the coordinate plane. In order to place information on the coordinate plane, we need to use something called an ordered pair. An ordered pair is two values in parentheses separated by a comma, and what they do is help us find the exact spot in the coordinate plane that we need to place that data point. The values in ordered pairs always represent, first, the location relative to the x-axis, and we'll talk about what that means in just a second, and then secondly, the location relative to the y-axis. So we get our x position first, and then our y position second. Because each of these values tells us about a location, they're each called a coordinate. This first one would be called the x-coordinate, and the second one would be called the y-coordinate. And together they tell us where to place a piece of data on the coordinate plane. Let's talk about how they give us that information. We said that the x-coordinate relates to the x-axis, or the position relative to x. So what does that mean? Well, the x-axis is the horizontal line on the coordinate grid. We can see this line right here is labeled x, and that tells us that this horizontal line going from, in our case, -6 all the way up to +6 is the x-axis. Similarly, the line that runs vertically or up and down is the y-axis, and we can see it labeled y as well. These relationships will always hold true. The x-axis is always the one that goes from side to side, and the y-axis is always the one that goes up and down. So when we're looking at an ordered pair, the first coordinate is telling us the horizontal distance that we need to go, and the second number is telling us the vertical distance that we need to go. Another point on the coordinate plane that is very important is the origin. Origin is a word that means beginning or start, and that's a great way to think of the origin and the coordinate plane as well. The origin is the point right here where both the y-axis and the x-axis intersect. It's a special point because it is the point on the graph that has the coordinates 0, 0. That means we haven't moved anywhere away from the origin in the left to right direction. That's why we have a 0 for our x-coordinate. And we haven't moved vertically at all either. We also have a 0 in the y-coordinate. The origin is a great place to start lots of graphing problems. We can think about any point that we might be given or any ordered pair that we might be given as the distance away from the origin. So knowing where to start is very, very helpful. As we look at the x and y axes and their relationship on the coordinate plane, we can see that they actually outline 4 different sections of that coordinate plane. In order to talk about the coordinate plane more easily, we've created names for each of these sections. They're each called quadrants, and we get that name because it's broken into 4 pieces, right? Quad means 4. In order to count these, start in the top right quadrant and then draw a C. The order of quadrants that you moved through matches the order of how we've named them. So the top right quadrant is quadrant 1, and we use Roman numerals typically to show this. The top left is quadrant 2. The bottom left is quadrant 3. And the bottom right is quadrant 4. Knowing the names of the quadrants allows you to communicate about points on the coordinate plane more easily. It also allows us to predict what the points in that quadrant will look like. In quadrant 1, both the x and y coordinate of our points will be positive. In quadrant 2, we'll have a negative x coordinate, but a positive y coordinate. In quadrant 3, both of our coordinates will be negative. And in quadrant 4, we'll have a positive x coordinate and a negative y coordinate. Knowing these patterns can help you place ordered pairs on the coordinate plane much more easily. If you know that you're looking at two positive coordinates, for example, you can forget about quadrants 2, 3, and 4 and just focus on placing your point within quadrant 1. Our main goal for today was to introduce the different parts and features of the coordinate plane. If you have questions about using the coordinate plane to plot points, I encourage you to check out our videos on that content. For today, though, we've discussed the important parts of the coordinate plane and we'll leave our discussion here. I hope it's been helpful to go over the different parts of the coordinate plane and how we use and talk about the coordinate plane together. As always, if you have any questions or other topics that you'd like to see discussed, please let me know down in the comments. If you enjoy our content, I hope you'll consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with me, and I'll catch you next time.